Have you ever experienced this? When someone criticizes or blames you, the more you explain, the more others think you're making excuses, inventing reasons. When you hear opposing views and try to prove you're not wrong, you're seen as irrational, and the outcome is always the opposite of your initial desire to be understood. In endless arguments and defenses, we diminish our own credibility, exhaust our spirit, yet still cannot escape the suspicion or criticism of others. This leads from resentment to quarrels, eventually causing irreparable cracks in relationships due to conflict. In psychology, this is called the trap of self-justification. The more you try to prove and explain, I am right, I am reasonable, I am innocent, the more others will think you are wrong, irrational, and guilty. Over a century ago, the master of short stories, Guy de Maupassant, clearly articulated the dangers of falling into this paradox of self-justification through his short story, The Little Rope. Maupassant said that the misunderstanding of others is like a rope binding you. The more you care, the more you justify, the tighter the rope squeezes, slowly suffocating you amidst self-doubt and self-exhaustion. Today, let's reflect on whether we are falling into this trap of self-justification and how to make wiser choices in dealing with ourselves and others, as illustrated by Maupassant's The Little Rope. Please listen. Are you tying yourself up with your own rope? The character, Mr. Hotchicorn, was a frugal peasant who lived his entire life saving. He couldn't bear to throw anything away. No matter how old or tattered his clothes and shoes were, they were always mended. One day, on his way to the town market, he saw a short piece of rope. As someone accustomed to poverty, he immediately thought of the many uses this rope could have when he needed it. So he quickly bent down, picked it up, and carefully coiled it. As he held the rope, admiring it, he inadvertently caught the eye of Malandane, a man who had long been at odds with him over livestock sales. Not wanting his adversary to see him being so thrifty as to pick up a mere piece of string, he quickly hid it in his cloak and pretended to search for something on the ground. Afterward, he walked towards the market with his head held high, though his back was slightly bent with embarrassment. After wandering around the market for a while, he stopped at an inn to rest. People were discussing someone losing a wallet, but as he was listening intently, 2 police officers suddenly arrived and took him to the police station for questioning. It turned out his enemy had reported him to the police, claiming he was the one who found the wallet. He cried out in indignation and panic, pulling out the rope to defend himself and asking the police to search him. The police found nothing and temporarily released him, telling him to await a summons. But as soon as he stepped out of the police station, curious people surrounded him, asking for details. He reluctantly took out the rope, explained clearly, and turned his pockets inside out to prove there was nothing in them. Everyone listened, then burst into laughter. No one believed what he said. He was so furious he led everyone to the spot where he found the rope and reenacted the entire story. However, people still shook their heads and mocked him. "Stop pretending, old man." Unable to do anything, he wandered around town, explaining his story to everyone he met. But he talked from morning until night, exhausted to the point of collapse, yet still couldn't clear himself of others' suspicions. Just as he was despairing, news spread throughout the town. A farmhand had confessed to the police that he was the one who found the wallet and returned it to its owner. Upon hearing the news, Hotchicorn felt liberated. He joyfully ran out of his house, proclaiming his innocence to everyone. But unbelievably, the rumors outside grew even more absurd. Some speculated that he was the mastermind who had bribed the farmhand to take the blame. Others suspected that he and the farmhand were accomplices who only returned the money when their scheme was exposed. The gossip suffocated him, making him unable to eat or sleep, leaving him no longer able to focus on farming. From then on, every day he walked around the village, telling everyone about his injustice, but people only laughed at him, pointed, and whispered to others, "He's just bragging and making excuses." Like a deflated balloon, the old farmer withered under the torment of people's rumors. His spirit grew increasingly broken, his body weakened, and eventually he died in depression. Why did the old man try every possible way to explain himself to others? You'll see from the very beginning, when the farmer quickly hid the rope when caught, feeling ashamed, to his desperate attempts to explain after being mistakenly accused of keeping lost property, all his actions stemmed from a deep-seated fear. He didn't want others to judge him as poor. In reality, just like the old man, in life we often encounter moments when others misunderstand or blame us. Instinctively, most people immediately want to explain or clarify, even fearing misunderstanding. You strive to please others, trying every way to make them have a good impression of you. In fact, every time you hastily justify and prove yourself, those reactions reveal one thing: you are trying to protect your own enormous ego and attempting to hide some inner weakness or insecurity. That's why you cannot agree with others' opinions, because acceptance would make you feel your ego is threatened. So you must resist and immediately express your own thoughts, as if life is only complete when acknowledged by others. But as the author of Conversations with God aptly put it, as long as you are worried about what others will think of you, they can make you a slave to condemnation and blame. All your reactions will be useless. Explanations at this point will be seen as excuses. The more you try to defend yourself, the more ridiculous others will find you. The rope the old man pulled out to explain is the symbol the author uses to represent the truth we always want to protect, but in the eyes of others, it is simply absurd. The more you cling to it, the more the rope will invisibly tighten around your neck, and when the rope tightens, the more you struggle to free yourself, the harder it constricts, ultimately leading to suffocation. The best way at this moment is to stop struggling. But how? The answer is, be still. We often think that silence is weakness and acceptance of others' opinions and judgments, but in reality, it is not. Silence is the most powerful form of counterargument. Only those with strong inner selves can maintain a state of stillness when faced with any external reaction. But what kind of stillness brings inner strength, rather than merely showing avoidance and escapism? Stillness means not needing to justify yourself when misunderstood. There's a story about an art exhibition in England. A painter held water in his mouth and sprayed it evenly onto paper as he was about to finish a peony painting. Someone saw this and loudly scoffed, "Spraying water with your mouth and calling it art? How ridiculous." At this, all eyes turned to the painter, but he merely smiled, said nothing, and continued working on his painting. Afterward, someone asked him, "This is clearly a method of ink splashing and painting. You could have said a few words to silence them immediately. Why didn't you explain?" The painter replied. "If that person truly cared about art, they wouldn't need an explanation, they would understand it themselves. But if they don't truly care, no matter how much you explain, they won't understand." Everyone's perception is different. We cannot avoid misunderstandings and disagreements. When someone understands you, you don't need to say much. You can understand each other. But with someone who doesn't understand you, anything you say will only create more conflict. Confucius once said, "The only way to win an argument is to avoid it." Remember, there are many times in life when endlessly explaining who you are will only be useless, because some people only want to hear what they want to hear and see what they want to see. A person with a strong inner self doesn't need to argue about right or wrong with others. As the saying goes, if you stand on a mountaintop, you can see the vast ocean, but someone halfway up the mountain can only see the desolate landscape. Each person has a different level of perception, way of thinking, and even different vision and stature, so their perspective on issues will surely differ. Sometimes, not arguing, not refuting, is a form of self-respect and respect for others. When you remain silent, it can help calm the atmosphere and avoid causing trouble for yourself. Usually, only a weak ego constantly lives in the eyes and opinions of others and always wants to prove itself. Truly strong individuals don't need to serve external evaluation systems. They simply need to focus on doing their own work well. Stillness means not collapsing into self-doubt when confronted with suspicion. Besides refuting others, many people in life also tie themselves up by refuting themselves. When doubted, they immediately blame themselves. For example, just a small mistake at work makes them feel remorseful and disheartened. A little unhappiness in the family makes them blame themselves for not caring enough for their loved ones. Seeing their partner disappointed, they incessantly think they are weak and incapable of providing a better life. In the book, Froggy Went to See the Psychiatrist, it says that no criticism is stronger than self-criticism, and no judge is harsher than ourselves. Stop self-criticism, accept your strengths and weaknesses, and pull yourself out of the swamp of self-doubt. When you no longer doubt yourself, no definition or conclusion from others can harm you. Stillness means not complaining when facing difficulties. When misunderstood, many people love to complain and seek sympathy from others, hoping someone will understand and comfort them. There's a saying, "Never complain to anyone, 80% don't care, and the remaining 20% consider it a joke." I often hear people say, "Oh, I'm afraid when XYZ calls to confide." Every time, it takes several hours of crying and sobbing. If you were one of those friends, would you still want to confide in that person after hearing such a comment? Many might easily think, "These people who say that aren't real friends, they're heartless and talk behind my back. Next time, I won't tell them, I'll find someone else." But do you know that others might not think the same way? No matter who it is, for the first few times, they might be willing to listen to you. But if you keep complaining incessantly, will they eventually get annoyed and avoid you? When I made a short video titled, "Never Complain to Anyone," some people commented, disagreeing and saying it was an extreme view. They said sometimes we need to confide in a close friend, which is much better. Many believe a good friend is willing to listen to our deepest thoughts, distinguishing between complaining and confiding. But have you noticed that confiding, Tam Su literally, heart story, means recounting the secret matters of your heart? If your heart is full of nothing but misery, you've turned confiding into complaining. I know everyone faces difficulties sometimes, but our inner pain is often not important to others, and no one likes to constantly receive negative energy. Usually in life, if you complain, "My colleague bullies me," someone will surely think, "What must you have done to be disliked by your colleague?" If you tell others your husband treats you badly and you want a divorce, some will think, "What kind of person are you for your husband to act that way?" This doesn't mean others are malicious, but humans are reasoning animals. We always think there must be fire for there to be smoke. No one can experience your life, so others' opinions will be subjective, and they might even turn back to hurt you more severely. Therefore, don't recount your ups and downs. Silently cultivate a state of calm amidst all difficulties. Read more books to enrich your mind and inner self. When you are strong, you naturally won't fear any suffering. You can embrace it with a balanced mind, and certainly, no injustice can become a rope binding you. Stillness means not getting upset when facing criticism and disparagement. The next rope you don't want to throw away is the judgment and disparagement of others. In life, we often encounter people who act strangely. They are skilled at belittling, trying to drag you into a vortex of negative emotions. You reason with them, you present the facts, but they act as if they don't see them. Some people also love to offer advice based on their own subjective opinions. When you enjoy reading, someone might mock you, "Such a bookworm." When you exercise, someone might say, "You must have a lot of free time to play sports." Even when you want to take exams, pursue higher education, or study abroad, someone will always advise, "Why study so hard? What's the point of so much studying? It's better to go out there, find a job, or start a business to earn money." When faced with such people, it's very difficult to explain to them the joy of learning, the benefits of exercise, or the satisfaction and fulfillment of self-improvement. Because they have never experienced these things and are not ready to experience them, no matter how eloquent your language, they won't understand. The more you explain, the more you show a lack of recognition and self-confidence. When faced with criticism or disparagement, many people feel resentful and annoyed. Some try to change themselves to conform to others' opinions. If they remain resentful, they might fall into a cycle of complaining or even depression. If they change themselves to chase social approval, they ultimately always lose, wasting time and damaging their spirit. Still others, when hearing criticism, immediately argue back or attack the other person's weaknesses. But arguments usually have only two outcomes. Either the opponent retaliates, leading to conflict and hatred, or you are dragged down to their pathetic level, tying and tightening the rope around yourself. In reality, we don't need to expect to perfectly align with and please everyone. One writer expressed his view when maliciously insulted by a colleague. "Every day he insults me proves that his life cannot do without me. As for me, I don't care, which proves that my life can do without him." Talk to those who understand you, share your life views with those who understand you. Don't waste words on people whose energy frequencies are out of sync with yours. Simply put, you cannot awaken someone who doesn't want to wake up or let them awaken on their own path. Let go of your sensitivity and weakness when hearing others' sharp words. To remain silent and walk away, refusing to be hurt by them, is the smartest choice. In reality, the rope Maupassant tells us about is everywhere. It is baseless rumors, and it is also harsh criticism and blame in daily life. If you allow these ropes to bind you, they will tighten around you in a suffocating grip, leading to despair and self-destruction. Most of the pain in life comes from caring too much about others' opinions and always wanting to prove a perfect, great ego to the outside world. The writer San Mao once said, "Your explanations about me don't even represent a fraction of who I am, but they fully represent who you are." Judging and criticizing others are merely one-sided opinions that cannot affect your life or define your character. Take control of yourself. You don't need to care about external noise, nor do you need to force anyone to acknowledge you. In the face of all misunderstandings, insults, and irrationality, silence is the most powerful way to handle it for you and me. I hope stillness will create a strong inner self for you. Let yourself know that it's time to untie these invisible ropes.